Russian shelling near the plant. This is ABC News.
I want to take more chances with the embroidery.
Henley's vision for a new clothing line is coming into focus.
Dramatic.
They'll need an on-staff photographer to put their collection in the spotlight.
Why is no one taking shots of these?
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Need an appliance? Shop the new appliance truckload event at Lowe's, going on now. From refrigerators and ranges to dishwashers and laundry pairs, we have a large selection of appliances from the brands you trust. Plus, get store-wide savings by shopping other in-stock categories. Go to your local Lowe's store or visit Lowes.com to shop the appliance truckload event and find what you need now. While supplies last, valid through 8/17.
Hey Nashville, Ray here. Many of us suffer with anxiety when going to the dentist. You guys need to go check out my amazing friends over at Bite Dentistry. Bite Dentistry is where my family goes for all our dental care. Their mission is to help patients breathe better, smile bigger, and live longer by offering a comprehensive selection of services and total dental care for every member of your family. Bite Dentistry is the only dentist in town trained and certified to offer the Vivos method that helps with people who grind their teeth at night or snore that causes sleep apnea. What's great about the Vivos methods is that it's provided for both kids and adults. They also work with a company called Guard Lab, which creates custom mouth guards, which are the same mouth guards used by professional football players. Located at 3212 West End Avenue, Suite 301, Nashville, you can set an appointment by calling them at 615-866-2129. That's 615-866-2129, and follow them on social media and online at bitedds.com. Again, that's bitedds.com.
Hello, hi, attention everyone.
This is going to be a great show.
And it's the choice of a new generation.
And now, it's time for Run With It, your home for all things sports, headlines, scoops, and gossip. Join Run With It now. 615-844-5600. 615-844-5600. Run With It is brought to you by Smiles by Design, Boomba's Craft Pizza and Tap House, Red Rose Hype Shop, and Bite Dentistry. And now, here are your hosts of Run With It, General Patton Cook and Ray, the best bowler in the building, Dosky.
It's 11 o'clock here on Sunday International Sports Radio, and you know what time it is? It's time to Run With It. I am your host, Ray Dosky, and he is, no, that is not Patton Cook. That is Devlin McKenzie behind the boards. We don't have Patton in today. He's kind of finding a little something under the bug, what have you, so he'll be missing today, but all you Patton Cook fans, he'll be back next week. Don't worry, don't worry. I've got so much to cover, Devlin. The NFL season's here. Week 1 has started. Well, preseason week 1. Sorry. You saw it yesterday. Jam-packed of games. You have several quarterbacks with their new teams. You have your Carson Wentz starting with Washington, going against who? Your old boy Baker Mayfield with Carolina. You had Deshaun Watson, which I think brought you a little joy to see behind.
Really?
No,
Did you see
no,
that game? Yeah, that was bad.
By the way, before we get into that, how are you doing this morning? How was your weekend, buddy?
It was fun. I
Yeah?
had a good weekend. I had a good time. Hung out in East Nashville last night with some friends.
Oh, yeah?
Had a good time and slept pretty awfully, and I'm here. You know, I'm feeling good now.
Feeling good?
Happy to be on the show.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here, man. Yeah, East Nashville. I used to hang out there a lot.
It's
Yeah.
better than hanging out downtown. That's for sure.
This is true.
Save some
This
money.
is true. Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it just keeps inching closer and closer for the season. We're, 3 weeks away?
Yeah. It seems like it's hard to believe. I
This-
can't believe it's finally here.
This week, high school football starts. Oh, by the way, those listening out there, big program alert. We got the Mid-State Checkdown Game of the Week airing Friday, this upcoming Friday, here on this station. Joe Fisher and Greg Poe will be calling a game. I think they're going to be out in Springfield, or Greenbrier, that is. And they're going to be doing that from 6 to 9. And then after that, it's going to be myself, your boy Ray Dosky, with Bruno Reagan doing the post game. We're basically going to just more or less do a recap of all the Mid-State high school football action from 9-11. So be sure to tune in for that. But let's get on to the NFL. Crazy stuff. You had Deshaun Watson. You had Matt Ryan. But let's talk about the Titans first before we get into those quarterbacks. Now, we all know that when it comes to the Titans, we don't know what to expect. There's been a lot of changes offseason. We all saw the game against the Baltimore Ravens. Wasn't that great. there was some highs and lows. No one really stood out. The only person who really stood out in that entire game for the Titans, outside of Julius Chestnut and Haskins, was more or less Logan Woodside. In the negative, that is. And the positive, Malik Willis. Malik Willis just balled. He just balled. Great performance. I think all eyes were on him. All Tennessee fans wanted to see what this guy was all about. And he did all right. He did well for his first game action. You know, it's going to take time. I'm excited to see the growth between Malik Willis in the coming months, year or so, what have you. But I know a lot of fans want to see where Derrick Henry's at, where Ryan Tannehill's at, because I know a lot of fans have lost faith in Ryan Tannehill because of his lackluster performance against the Bengals in last year's playoffs. Then, of course, we took the loss, which is fine. Who really cares about preseason? I mean, when you talk about preseason games, we all know coaches don't really come out. They don't throw what they feel like should be more or less a devised game. They want to win. Don't tell me a coach who doesn't want to win the preseason. I'm telling you, every coach wants to win. They want to see fight and grit, not for the guys who are pretty much already set in stone in terms of trying to start. They've pretty much got those starters solidified, probably about 40 positions. Probably 40 players have already made the roster. The last 15 or 17 or so, those are up for grabs. Those are usually special teams, or those practice squad players, who's going to really make a difference. And we were expecting a little bit. Be off, looking at this game, it was kind of hard to kind of see where they're at right now. Offensive line, a lot of question marks there. You got Radness and you've got Freet starting on opposite side of the tackles. Who would step up in the quarterback position? That's secondary. Rashad Weaver, hopefully to provide some support. He's more or less like a draft pick you give back because you didn't have him last year because he was out during the preseason. He electrifying preseason. Showed flashes of brilliance. Was out early during the regular season last year. Comes back. Looks like he's about to solidify that bookings to help Dupree and Harold Landry. If they feel like one of those guys are out, whatever, or kind of change them out during games, he'll be able to be that third piece, that clog to rush your quarterback. But the offensive line, I mean, just who knows where they're at right now. There's so many question marks there. And I'm going back and I'm looking at all the games. I'm looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars game. I'm looking at the Texans game. I'm looking at the Colts game. The Colts, who forced 4 or 5 turnovers against Buffalo, I thought they were going to get 50 turnovers this year. The way they're playing. So I came to myself who is the most important player for the Titans this year? You got to ask yourself that. Who is the most important player? Many will say, oh, it's Derrick Henry. Others will say, oh, it's Ryan Tannehill. I don't think there's one important player on this team because I feel like there's just so many questions that need to be answered, especially on the offensive line. And I know Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is one of the better coaches in the NFL. He'll get it right. And like I talked about earlier, coaches do not want to show their play books, if you will, at during these preseason games because they mean nothing. But it's time for them to kind of see where things step out. They like to keep their cards close to their chest. But hey, if you decide to do that and not show anything when the regular season hits, guess what? Whatever playbook you have, it better work. You've lost Safford, who's probably one of the better if not the best running back guard, if you will, lineman. Now he's in Buffalo. And now there's all these question marks. And I feel like there's going to be, I don't even think the left guard is actually even on the squad right now. I think there's going to still be some questions there. I think there are going to be some moments where they're going to kind of go through and look, someone might be a cap casualty, and there's a couple players out there available right now, but I just don't know right now. Looking at the offensive line, they gave 5 sacks against the Ravens. Yes, I know it's 5 sacks. It's the Ravens, but still, we'll see what happens there. Secondary gave some big plays during that fourth quarter where the Ravens kind of just started to run away with the game, took momentum, and you see outside like Fulton, you see Farley, all those guys, those cornerback positions are solidified. But what are those back ends? What are the support guys? Chris Harris went out due to a knee injury. It's just really interesting to see what happens. But you have to ask yourself. So I'm going to go basically off of every team in the AFC South about who I think really is the most important player on their team. So for the Titans, I don't think that I think the Titans go as far as Ryan Tannehill takes them. There's still a lot of question marks. Last year there was a lot of optimism when they had Julio Jones, A.J. Brown. They had this prolific offense coming in. This year, there's a lot of questions. Treylon Burks, Robert Woods, coming back from an injury. Treylon actually almost had a touchdown. Had Malik Willis just saw him. You saw Treylon, if you're looking at that preseason game, he's got a 60-yard scamp towards the post. He is wide open. And Malik doesn't see him. That would have been his first touchdown this year. But those are the things that he's got to work on. And you can see, going through training camp, all they really worked on was just those checkdowns, those short to immediate passes. Get those down because we know you can throw the deep ball. He threw a great deep ball in that Ravens game. But work on the fundamentals first. Get that. Understand the defenses. And there was a lot of times, even when like Mike Vrabel said, "Why'd you take out Malik Willis?" He said, "Because I want him to throw the ball more." He's like, he knew this was his last series. Throw the ball. See where you're at. Instead, he ran a couple plays. I think he took a play where he lost a couple yards, and then he was out. And then Woodside came in, and the rest is history. So now we have the Bucs coming in. No Tom Brady, which I'm actually kind of pissed about, truth be told, because I actually enjoy watching the Tom Brady and Mike Vrabel banter back and forth. It's actually really fun. It should actually be a sitcom on YouTube because they're so funny. Like, I don't know if there was one year they came when they did a joint practice, I think it was 2 years ago, and they were going back and forth. And it was Tom Brady and Mike Vrabel. He's like, "What are you doing?" Like, they're just hollering at each other as Tom Brady's walking onto the practice field. Before you know it, went viral all over NFL Network and all of Twitter, stuff like that. I was actually there to cover that. I thought it was hilarious. The crowd had a good kick out of it. They enjoyed that as well. So I'm actually upset that he's not going to be here this week. So I know Tom Brady in Nashville this coming week against the Titans. But then you have to ask yourself, like, who are they going to, is Logan Woodside going to get the start? Because I don't know how Logan Woodside is the backup quarterback to Ryan Tannehill. I think there's still a lot of question marks at that quarterback position. Yes, I know Malik had a great showing. Yes, it's the preseason. Yes, no, it's a vanilla offense. Yes, no one's defending stuff. But still, 2 turnovers. I think they had, 3 turnovers compared to the one they were able to take back against the Baltimore Ravens. Not a good showing. Not a great showing. But this is what the preseason's for, right? You got 2 joint practices coming. You got one against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then after that, you got the Arizona Cardinals. So that's going to be good to kind of scrimmage and hit other people like that you don't care about getting hurt. Like, you don't want to hurt anybody, but like you can be physical with, right? Because when you're playing, scrimmages within your inner squad, you don't want to hurt somebody because you need them for the longevity of the season. But in terms of trying to go against somebody else, yes. Now we can play a little more freely. And the ones who don't have joint practices, of course, they have preseason games. So if you were to ask me, I feel like there's going to be a lot of pressure on Derrick Henry. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Treylon Burks to produce. Robert Woods still a question mark. It looks like he's coming back nicely on his rehab. We don't know what he's going to look at the start of the season. Should be ready, but we don't know how ready he'll be. And I don't think you can really pinpoint one player. Many fans will. It's like out there. I'm going to post this on Twitter here in a few minutes about who do you feel like is the most important player for 2022 for the Tennessee Titans. And I'm going to be excited to see what the responses will be. Is it a Ryan Tannehill? Is it the defense? Is it the offensive line? I mean, can you specify one? I don't think you can. Last year, you could have been easy. It's all about Ryan Tannehill because he had all the pieces there. You got a great running offensive line. You've got a great running back, arguably the best running back last year. Now this year, it's up there because Jonathan Taylor's kind of taking that reins at number 1. Then you look at the wide receiver core. It's it's either Julio Jones or you got A.J. Brown. Well, 2 of those players are now gone. They're on new teams. Derrick Henry coming back from that Jones fracture. We'll see how he looks. He looks great in practice, but everyone looks great in practice. So it's hard to define. But if I were to pick one particular player, I can't. But I will tell you one position that I think that's going to be the most important thing the entire year, and that's the offensive line. The offensive line is going to, and they've got Ben Jones at center, and you got Taylor Lewan, who I love. I think he's one of the better, top 15 left tackles in the NFL. They're going to get these young guys up and running. I think they're going to be able to talk to them, coach them a little bit, see things. But if you got those 2, and then we all know left tackle, the blind side of any quarterback is the most important piece on that offensive line. That is short away. And it gives time for these other guys to kind of to catch up, if you will. You go in the old line rooms, kind of go through the meeting rooms and talk to them a little bit, see how that goes. I'm not worried about that, but I do have concern about what their performance was on week 1. Now, granted, Taylor Lewan's not playing, but a lot of the starters are not playing and stuff. But you want to see those guys who are fighting for that position to kind of separate themselves from their competition. And it seems like it's still an even dead race right now. So we've got 2 more weeks to find out, see what this guy's going to do. The lineman's situation is going to look like. Hopefully they're going to shore up a little bit. But in terms of the Titans, I'm excited to see where they're going to go against a talented front four. I don't know how many of those starters on the Bucs defensive line are going to start, but I'm hoping most of them will, to kind of give a little more push to the offensive line, to kind of give more of a challenge, if you will. Then you look at the Colts. It's all about Matt Ryan, right? Matt Ryan, just after their debacle last year towards the end of the season, missing out on the playoffs after a seven game winning streak. Carson Wentz out, Matt Ryan in. I can't. It's hard to say because Carson Wentz. I actually watched him on Saturday because he is the quarterback of my fill in the blank Washington team. I could say my football team. I could say the Commander. Now look, I did like their outfits. I do like the unis. The unis are pretty low key fire. They're all white. But that's neither here or there. But in terms of the Colts, defensively, they're going to be a juggernaut. They've got a lot of talent on the defensive side. Matt Ryan will hopefully be able to place them in a better position, much than Carson Wentz. That's what they feel. Jonathan Taylor, we just talked about that. Probably arguably the best running back. Offensive line, one of the best. So I would think Matt Ryan is the most important piece of that Colts team this year, for them to be able to see any success. Then you look at the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans, yeah, that's what I said, Devin. I was like, yeah, what are these guys going to do? What are the Jags? The Jaguars are all about their youth development right now. But you look at the pieces they've added. You got a Christian Kirk that's there. You got Evan Ingram as your tight end. You've got some pieces to work with. You got a Travis Etienne that's actually coming back. So that's kind of like another first-round pick that's coming back, or another draft pick that's coming into your league.
Who look great, by the way.
Yes, absolutely, right? Who's been flying up fantasy charts all this time.
He's made his stock go up.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you see they added Brandon Sheriff, who took my Washington football team to shore up the guard position. Second year. Trevor Lawrence. What does he look like under Doug Peterson? That's going to be an interesting piece. But if I were to ask, what the teams will look like, for the Texans, it's Brandon Cooks. He's been a 7. Can you believe he's only like 26, 27 years old? He feels like he's been playing since he was he's in his 30s right now.
It's hard to believe. Yeah.
Like he's like a seasoned vet and then some. And he produces 1,000-yard receiving yards each year, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. He's had 4 stops? Had the option because the Texans just a month ago were on a fire sale, like this entire offseason. We're getting rid of this guy, Zach Cunningham, during last season, now a Tennessee Titan. DeAndre Hopkins, Deshaun Watson, now gone. Got Davis Mills, that is. What does the offense look like now? What does his team look like? So I think Brandon Cooks is going to probably be the most important player on that team because he's the most steady. He's a pro's pro. And then going back to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that it's not a one player. I don't think it's under Trevor Lawrence because Trevor Lawrence is getting a new offense, all that. I think that the fans are going to be patient with him. But look at the pieces they added. I think Christian Kirk is going to be a piece that they're going to really watch this year because he's paid buku money for him. Little $18 million for 4 years, what have you. Many will believe that they overpaid for him. We'll see. We'll see if he was worth, is he more bang for the buck? Is he really worth it? Travis Etienne. Nice little switch up. Help out James Robinson. They short up the offensive line. Hey, Jackson might surprise people. We don't know. That's the crazy thing. And the Texans, when they were playing yesterday, they played with a lot of fight against the Saints last night. And that's the kind of coach that Lovie Smith is. That's the kind of team he coaches. So it'll be interesting, but if I were to pick, it's so hard to pick a player on most of these teams about who will be the most important. For the Titans, I cannot pick one. I can't say Derrick Henry. Many fans will believe it's Derrick Henry. Other fans will believe it's Ryan Tannehill. A combination of the two. I believe it's just the offensive line. They need to really shore up that because I feel like if you shore up the offensive line, everything else will follow. Just like, the chips will fall as they may. It's just a domino effect. Texans, I told you, Brandon Cooks. Colts, Matt Ryan. I mean, in Jacksonville, do you believe that Trevor Lawrence is probably the most important player on that team? Or do you believe that, maybe one of these offensive pieces that they added, whether it be a Christian Kirk or Evan Ingram, who actually showed flashes when he was with the Giants. And we've seen Doug Peterson, when he has a tight end, especially a star tight end, like a quality tight end, his offense utilizes the tight ends crazy. Look at Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert. Like he did that with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's coming from the Andy Reid tree. What do the Chiefs do? They love their tight ends. Do we know a guy named Travis Kelce? Yes, I think we all recognize that name. Tight ends are very important in that Doug Peterson, Andy Reid offensive tree, if you will. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm excited, dude. I'm excited. I just don't know where week 2 is going to look like. I'm excited to see now that I know they just got back to the practice Saturday. And all eyes, like I told you, all last week was Malik Willis. Now does Malik Willis get to start this week, or do they decided, what, we're going to – I'm hoping that they give Ryan Tannehill, and I know Derrick Henry's already out. I wish, this is like not a fan, but more or less like an outside viewer of, watcher of the NFL. you see a guy coming off an injury. You want to see him give him a couple snaps, kind of knock off the rust a little bit, kind of give him some game action. Because I don't want him to kind of hold out the entire season, and then he shows up against the Giants, and then he lays an egg. Did you see Adam Rank's win-loss for the Texans this year? He's got them at 10-7, which is
I think that's fair.
That's fair, right? But guess what? He's got them beating all the easy teams. Does he watch the Tennessee Titans games at all? Because that's not how it works. We don't beat the easy teams. We always beat the teams we're not supposed to beat, like the Chiefs, the Bills. Teams that we're supposed to have a struggle against. We outperform. I mean, we've owned the Buffalo Bills for the last 2 seasons or 3 seasons, if you will. But when it comes to like the Jets or the Texans, no, we play to the level of competition. We lower expectations. And our own Bruno Reagan here at National Sports Radio called the Jets last year. But he's still it's ace up his sleeve. Like, oh, remember I called the Jets. I called the Jets.
Juggernaut team this year.
Yeah, juggernaut team. Who now they lost their left tackle for the year, and Zach Wilson's dealing with probably a tear, bone bruise, if you will. And they're going to get more reports. And it looks like the injury bug, we all know it always hits one team, right? It seems like it hit the Jets early a little bit. It seems like the Jets are the team right now that's got the bullseye on them. Zach Wilson was coming in, a lot of hype, a lot of this, new additions. Questionable for week 1, depending on what the X-rays come back. So his turntable right now, they're going to check him out for the next 2 to 4 weeks. Now, the great thing for them is that the fact that they actually have another month or so, less than a month, to kind of get healed up. They'll see where they're at. They can reassess it then. They'd much rather have it now than they would have it during the season. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm looking forward to it. Just to let you guys know, we've got a ton to talk. We're going to continue our NFL chat here. We're going to go, talk a little more depth about the Titans, what's going on against the Bucs, the practices, all that good stuff. Later, we're going to have a great guest. We're going to have Mr. Gibler on, from USA Today, who covers the Bills. And we're going to talk about the AFC East, because that's what we're doing on the show. We're basically rounding around the divisions, going through it, see whether we're breaking them down. Not only team, but almost the division itself. And there's been a lot. If you were to think about what division outside of the AFC West that made some noise, was the AFC East. Buffalo got much better. Von Miller, Saffold, who was one of our dear and Greer from Titans, now up in Buffalo. Then you look down at what's going on in Miami. Oh, Tyreek Hill. Oh, the Cheetahs. Not Cheetahs, because you got him and Waddell. I call them the Cheetahs now. I mean, it's like the Legion of Zoom, if you will. That's what I call them, the Legion of Zoom. And so I'm interested to see what happens there. We don't know much about New England. A lot of question marks. Josh McDaniels now with the Las Vegas Raiders. What does the offense look like? There's been a lot of. Have you been seeing a lot of the heat that's coming out of there? They're talking about there's been a lot of question marks. It's not flowing. The offense has not been looking as great as years past with Josh McDaniels, running the offense. Now it's like a team effort between Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, and Coach Belichick. Wow, Matt Patricia. Okay, so you got one special teams guy, you got a defensive coordinator, and 2 defensive coordinators running the offense. But hey, that's how they do it in New England country, right? That's how they do it. So he'll be coming on at 11:30. We're going to break down AFC East. And like I said, if you want to jump in, join the chat, whatever, you jump us on the Cure Hotline at 615-844-5600. We're hanging out here in the Striking Spirit Family Fun Studios, having a lot of fun. But before we go to the break, I got to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel. The NFL Week one odds are out, and now's the time to try FanDuel Sportsbook if you haven't already. Get on the action early this season. Right now, the new FanDuel Sportsbook customers can get no sweat first bet up to $1,000. What NFL features bets would be the no sweat bets. Like if you like anything like more or less like a season bet. Have you been watching Hard Knocks? Detroit?
Actually, yeah.
Okay, so look, I've become a big Dan Campbell fan, and right now the over under for them is 6.5. Based off what I watched on them, I'm probably going to take the over on that. That's what I'm thinking about doing a future bet with FanDuel. Or you could do, the Rams plus 100. Would you take that action? That's actually look, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor. Who's going to be the rushing title winner? There's so many that's out there. Just check them out. Just sign up using promo code WNSR to place your first bet, and FanDuel will give you up to $1,000 back in free bets if you don't win. There's no better place to get ready for the football season than on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sporting betting partner of the NFL. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and sign up using promo code WNSR to get started with your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's promo code WNSR. 21 and present in Tennessee. First online real money wagers only. Refund issues at non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problems? Call TN Redline 1-800-889-9789.
Nashville's first curling venue is here at T-Line Nashville. Come check out T-Line Nashville and experience the world's fastest growing winter sport today. Curling is a fun and simple sport that's a perfect outing for friends, corporate events, families, or parties. T-Line also has classic bowling and modern bowling mini games. With over 20 HD TVs, you can come watch your favorite teams and some of the best food and drinks here in Nashville in the large bar and grill area. They also have an outdoor area with a fire pit, and you can't forget the live music. T-Line Nashville is a one-stop shop for a great night out. Located at 106 Duluth Avenue and online at tlinenash.com. You can book your party now or give them a call at 615-439-1024. That's 615-439-1024. And make sure you give them a follow on Instagram and Facebook at T-Line Nash for all the news, events, and updates. T-Line Nashville. Nashville's first curling venue is here.
Hey Nashville, Ray here. Many of us suffer from anxiety when going to the dentist. You guys need to check out my friends over at Bite Dentistry, where Dr. Lewis and her team are amazing. Bite Dentistry is where my family goes for all of our dental care. Their mission is to help patients breathe better, smile bigger, and live longer by offering a comprehensive selection of services and total dental care for every member of your family. Bite Dentistry is the only dentist in town trained and certified to offer the Vivos method that helps with people who grind their teeth at night or snore that causes sleep apnea. The Vivos technology is also provided for both kids and adults. They also work with a company called Guard Lab, which creates custom mouth guards, which are the same mouth guards used by the Tennessee Titans. Located at 3212 West End Avenue, Suite 301, Nashville, you can set up an appointment by calling them at 615-866-2129. That's 615-866-2129. And follow them on social media and online at bitedds.com. What's up, Nashville? It's Ray from Run With It. Let me tell you about my good friends over at Red Rose Hype Shop. If you're looking to upgrade your closet with the flyest streetwear and brands like Yeezys, Jordans, Supremes, and much more, go see my friends at Red Rose Hype Shop, the hottest place in Nashville where you can buy, sell, trade, and even consign your gear. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram by searching at Red Rose Hype Shop. You can also visit them at 1187 Antioch Pike, Nashville. They're open from noon to 6 Tuesday through Saturday and 12:30 to 5 on Sundays. And be sure to tell them that Ray sent you.
5X480, Dayton B100 V-Belt, one of the many parts Grainger carries. It's also the item that helped Rob carry the day. The job was on hold, deadline fast approaching, but a quick search on Grainger.com and Rob found his part. And with same-day pickup at his local branch, he and his crew got the job done, safely and on time. Get supplies and solutions for every industry with real-time product availability. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, it's Patton Cook from Run With It. Let me tell you about my friends over at Smiles by Design. Dr. Dwayne Jones and his team focus on providing you with personalized, gentle care that you deserve. Smiles by Design are one of the few practices that offer state-of-the-art, needle-free cavity fillings. I started going to Dr. Jones 2 years ago, and he has completely changed my smile. They are located at 105 Threet Industrial Boulevard, Unit 1001 in Smyrna. You can visit their website at drdwaynejones.com for more information, or you can call them at 615-355-1033. Again, their number is 615-355-1033, or you can search for them on social media at Smiles by Design. So be sure the next time you're looking for dentistry services, give my friends over at Smiles by Design a try. And don't forget to tell them Patton sent you.
High school football season is here, and we're looking forward to joining you August 19th, 6:45 p.m., the Mid-State Checkdown Game of the Week, Springfield against Greenbrier. And you can tune us in a number of ways. Of course, right here on Nashville Sports Radio, WNSR, also on the WNSR app and on WNSR.com. It's the Mid-State Checkdown High School Football Game of the Week on your home for high school football, WNSR, Nashville Sports Radio.
Welcome back. I'm Ray Dosky. Here on Run With It. Patton Cook, not in studio today. Devin McKenzie behind the boards here in the Strike and Spare Family Fun Center studio. If you guys want to join the chat, give me a call, man. It's Sunday morning, which is football. Give me a call on the Kier hotline at 615-844-5600. We're just chatting away on all the action. There was one thing I didn't notice about the Titans. Mike Rebel came out about talking of Treylon Burks' first game action. And he spoke, and I think the one word he used in explaining his performance was inconsistent. Well, of course it is. I mean, if you saw the game against the Baltimore Ravens, he played well into the fourth quarter. And there was a couple plays where you felt like, you know what, this is it. They went to him deep a couple times. Malik Willis missed him on a play. There was another play during the fourth quarter where I felt like Woodside actually had him in the end zone. It was like maybe at 30 yards, bomb towards the end zone. Kind of underthrew it a little bit. Corner was able to get under it and deflect the ball. And so just give the young man time. I'm excited to see what's going to happen there. I think that he'll, I just want him to play his type of ball. Don't try to replace A.J. Brown. Be Treylon Burks. That's all I want him to be. You dropped him number 16 overall. There's talent there. Let's see where he goes. I got a little question here on Instagram. Follow me on my Instagram at NFL.junkie, Junkie, where we talk all kinds of NFL, chat, starts, sits, fantasy football. We have a lot of fun. Go check that site out on Instagram. It's a lot of fun. If you like what you see, smack that follow button. Caleb K _01 asks, how high are you on NTN? Man, super high. I don't know if you were able to catch the show earlier, but I'm super high on this guy. He showed out in his first game action. Doug Peterson loves a Travis Etienne type player. He gets running backs involved. They're a part of what he wants to do offensively. I think that he's going to be a month. If you're talking fantasy, I think he's going to be a PPR man of fantasy. But in terms of overall success, I think he's going to play a huge part. He's going to be Trevor Lawrence's best friend. He's going to make life a lot easier for him. I think that it's only, as the preseasons continue on and on, I think his value is going to start to continue to skyrocket. So I'm high. I'm very high on it. So I can't wait to see what happens here on, the upcoming season. But yeah, Treylon Burks, easy with it. I know he's inconsistent. See, that's the thing about Mike Vrabel. That's what he expects. He expects excellence for him, and I like that kind of coach. I think he'll be able to catch up to him. I just think he needs time. A.J. Brown was much like that too when he first came into the league. Getting acclimated to the pro style, see where it goes. I think that only a matter of time you'll be able to see where he's going to do there. I got faith in him. But we got to run to a break. When we come back, we're going to have Bradley Gilbert here on the show to talk AFC East, baby. We're going to talk about the Bills and the Patriots and the Dolphins, who's got a new addition there, a fast new addition, as well as the Jets, who've been hit by the entry bug. Back me here on Run With It in a few minutes.
Hey, it's Patton Cook from Run With It. Let me tell you about my friends over at Smiles by Design. Dr. Dwayne Jones and his team focus on providing you with personalized, gentle care that you deserve. Smiles by Design are one of the few practices that offer state-of-the-art, needle-free cavity fillings. I started going to Dr. Jones 2 years ago, and he has completely changed my smile. They are located at 105 Threet Industrial Boulevard, Unit 1001 in Smyrna. You can visit their website at drdwaynejones.com for more information, or you can call them at 615-355-1033. Again, their number is 615-355-1033, or you can search for them on social media at Smiles by Design. So be sure the next time you're looking for dentistry services, give my friends over at Smiles by Design a try. And don't forget to tell them Patton sent you.
My friend and I are taking a trip to Mexico this year, but neither of us speak Spanish. So we downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to get conversational in another language in as little as 3 weeks? Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿De dónde eres?
¿De dónde eres?
Babbel's interactive lessons are created by real language teachers and voiced by real native speakers using a modern conversation-based method. So in no time, you'll be speaking confidently about real-life topics in another language.
Nosotras vamos a México en 2 días y ahora hablamos español. Gracias, Babbel. Sí, muchas gracias.
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
When was the last time you did something fun with family, friends, coworkers, and clients? What if I told you about a place under one roof that offers affordable entertainment for all ages? That's what you'll find at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers in Donaldson, Hermitage, Tusculum, Hendersonville, and Murfreesboro with bowling, games, food, drink, and entertainment for all ages. Enjoy an enhanced experience in Hendersonville or Murfreesboro where they feature additional fun with bumper cars, laser tag, roller skating, and more. All locations are open 7 days a week, including holidays. Visit online at strikeandspare.com. Strike and Spare, where fun is bowling.
What's up, Nashville? It's Ray from Run With It. Let me tell you about my good friends over at Red Rose Hype Shop. If you're looking to upgrade your closet with the flyest streetwear and brands like Yeezys, Jordans, Supremes, and much more, go see my friends at Red Rose Hype Shop, the hottest place in Nashville where you can buy, sell, trade, and even consign your gear. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram by searching at Red Rose Hype Shop. You can also visit them at 1187 Antioch Pike, Nashville. They're open from noon to 6 Tuesday through Saturday and 12:30 to 5 on Sundays. And be sure to tell them that Ray sent you. Hey Nashville, Ray here. Many of us suffer from anxiety when going to the dentist. You guys need to check out my friends over at Bite Dentistry, where Dr. Lewis and her team are amazing. Bite Dentistry is where my family goes for all of our dental care. Their mission is to help patients breathe better, smile bigger, and live longer by offering a comprehensive selection of services and total dental care for every member of your family. Bite Dentistry is the only dentist in town trained and certified to offer the Vivos method that helps with people who grind their teeth at night or snore that causes sleep apnea. The Vivos technology is also provided for both kids and adults. They also work with a company called Guard Lab, which creates custom mouth guards, which are the same mouth guards used by the Tennessee Titans. Located at 3212 West End Avenue, Suite 301, Nashville, you can set up an appointment by calling them at 615-866-2129. That's 615-866-2129. And follow them on social media and online at bitedds.com.
You have a 90% chance of surviving a lightning strike. You have a 98% chance of surviving a shark attack. You have a 99% chance of surviving a snake bite. But you only have a 50% chance of surviving a crash if you aren't wearing a seatbelt. Your truck may be tough, but a seatbelt makes it tougher. Buckle up in your truck. Brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office.
What's happening? What's happening?
I'll tell you what's happening. We hanging out here on Run With It. I'm Ray Dosky. He is Patton Wool. In spirit, that's Patton Cook. Devin McKenzie behind the boards. Here hanging out in the Strike and Spare Family Fun Studios. Man, we're about to get into some AFC East talk with a friend of ours, Bradley Gilbert from USA Today, writer from USA Today. Hey, Bradley, are you there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for joining us, man. How goes it up in Buffalo country, my friend?
Well, it is currently 77 degrees and sunny, so I will not complain about the weather here right now, at least. So.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. So we want to talk a little. Let's talk about little Bills. Let's talk a little AFC East as a whole. Eventually, a little later in the show. When you look at this division, probably didn't get as much attention as opposed to, let's say, the AFC West in terms of changes. I mean, AFC West looks like it's a primetime show every week in that division.
Sure.
But when you look at the AFC East, there was a little, there was a few moves that were made down in Miami with Tyreek Hill. The Buffalo Bills getting a Von Miller to kind of help probably take him to that next, probably help him get to that next step to probably chase a Super Bowl ring. But let me talk to you about the coaching staff. Brian Daboll now in the New York Giant. He's the head coach there. What do you expect to see out of this new Ken Dorsey offense? Do you think it's going to be much of the same? Do you think a drawback with Josh Allen in terms of what they want to do offensively on that team?
Yeah, so that's a really good place to start, I think. And, it's hard to say anytime you have those sort of coaching changes exactly what to expect. But it's really been a smooth transition, at least from what the Bills have led on and Josh Allen himself have led on. Obviously, Ken Dorsey was Josh's quarterback coach, so it's not really like they're bringing in an outside voice per se. But, anytime, you have an offensive coordinator that's worked with the consistency that Brian Daboll has with Josh Allen since he's come into the league, Josh has been really fortunate anytime you look around the league and you look at that quarterback draft class, right, when it was Baker Mayfield, then you had Sam Darnold and, all these other guys at Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, a lot of these guys that came in highly touted. And, you can make the argument between Lamar and Josh. Obviously, Lamar's won the MVP, but, Josh has really come into probably being the overall, consensus top quarterback in that group. And a lot of it tends, I think, to go back to the consistency that he's had with his coaching staff. You look at some of these other quarterbacks, and they've just had nothing there. I mean, every year it's a different coordinator, a different coach in there, a different offense. So I don't think we're going to see a dramatically different offense at this point. I think there'll be different kind of caveats or changes that Ken Dorsey kind of wrinkles he puts into it himself. But, I think Josh is comfortable with Ken. I think that they trust each other. He said nothing but great things about Ken since Ken joined the team. Obviously, a lot of people are familiar with Ken Dorsey from his time as at the University of Miami, the quarterback there. So, I think Josh has made it clear that he trusts him and that, at this point, it's really Josh's show, right? So it's not, you can have a different coordinator in there, but it's Josh Allen's offense. It's Josh Allen's team at this point. People are expecting, monumental things out of Josh in this offense this season, as he kind of alluded to. It's really, you can ask them, is it Super Bowl or bust? No one's going to come out and say that, but it kind of feels that way with this team right now. So I don't think they're going to miss a beat at this point, the Bills, with Ken coming in here. But it'll be interesting to see anytime if there will be any early season regression just in terms of, comfortability with the play calling and things like that. But I wouldn't expect any massive changes, especially with how well this offense, has performed the last couple of seasons.
Let's talk about Gabriel Davis. Now he starts. There's been a lot of love that he's been getting on Twitter about him possibly moving into that starting role with Stephon Diggs. Do you believe that he's ready to step up in that starting lineup outside of Stephon Diggs?
100%, yes. I mean, if you watched him in the playoffs last year, I mean, the guy was, obviously some of that was predicated on Josh Allen creating those plays, but to step up in the moment the way Gabriel Davis did, I mean, the guy just was ready. I mean, he was ready for prime time. He was ready for that moment. And there was signs of that earlier in the year. I mean, obviously they brought in a guy like Emmanuel Sanders last year, which was not a knock against Gabriel Davis. I think anytime you have big expectations on a team in an offense that performed like the Bills did the season prior when they lost in the AFC Championship game to the Chiefs there, that's a lot to put on a young wide receiver opposite Stephon Diggs, like you said. So I think bringing in Emmanuel Sanders was really kind of a smart move because of the experience he brought to the table. I mean, I know statistically, perhaps from an outsider's perspective, Emmanuel Sanders wasn't a huge, hit in his one season with the Bills, but just the knowledge he imparted on that wide receiver group. I mean, him and Steph are close, and that was good too. But just to be able to bring in, I mean, they brought in a guy like Jamison Crowder this offseason as well too. And anytime you can bring in guys with experience to impart it on these younger wide receivers, I think it helps. And I think we saw that in the playoffs with Gabriel Davis. I think having a guy like Emmanuel Sanders, having a guy like Stephon Diggs in that wide receiver room, really did a lot for them. And I think Bills fans are really excited about this wide receiver group. Obviously, Diggs is the big name that a lot of people know, but they have a lot of other kind of talented younger players. A guy like Isaiah McKenzie is going to be stepping into the slot role with Cole Beasley, now no longer with the team. And he's a guy that people are probably maybe have heard his name on a couple different teams over the years, but he's been with the Bills now in different roles here. And, he's filled in the slot here and there, wildcat, some different things. He, tried his hand kick returning, punt returning, but he's a guy they're expecting a lot out of. So I think Gabriel Davis is absolutely ready to take that, that step as the Bills' number 2. And it'll be interesting to see, again, like we said, kind of with the play calling, it really becomes in Buffalo, like, how are you going to feed all these mouths more than anything? I mean, they are trying to impart the running game a little bit outside of just Josh Allen. They drafted James Cook there, which a lot of people are familiar with him and his brother Dalvin Cook. But It's going to be a lot of, and we haven't even mentioned the tight end group there with Dawson Knox, a big and up and coming name. So it's going to be more about how do we spread this around and feed all these mouths, I think, more than worrying about are any of these guys going to show up, because, number 17 is going to make sure they show up. So it's going to be about taking advantage of the opportunities when you get them.
I'm glad you mentioned James Cook. When you look at that three-headed monster that's behind Josh Allen, well, you can throw Josh Allen there because he's more or less a mobile running quarterback himself. So he sure, has his times. When you look at the, between Singletary and Moss and James Cook, and Cook has been getting a lot of love, especially on social media, not only in fantasy football formats, but more like just the NFL on a whole, about how he's really stepping into that role. Who do you think is leading right now of that pack in terms of being the starting role? I mean, is Ken Dorsey going to have a starting running back week in, week out, or is he going to more or less be like a Brian Dable where he's going to basically match up, players to certain teams week in and week out?
Sure, and let's not forget Duke Johnson as well.
Duke Johnson, absolutely.
Bills brought in the offseason.
Right.
Really been getting his shot as the starting kick returner so far in the preseason. But yeah, that's a really good question. Obviously, Devin Singletary has been with the team the longest, and we saw a leap from him last year, and that's something they've been waiting for a while. But I think in today's NFL, it really is about playing the matchups. Unless you really have a bell cow running back, which is really becoming less and less common nowadays. I think it's really becoming having dynamic running backs that can play the matchups. And I think, Zach Moss has been an interesting guy. He came in and he's been in the doghouse a little bit here and there with the Bills coaching staff. He's had some fumbling issues. He was benched for quite a few games, and, Devin Singletary stepped up. So I think Devin Singletary is probably leading the pack in terms of if you want to give a starting nod to someone. But you're right, James Cook, for one reason or another, has just been one of those guys who's been beloved since he was drafted by the Bills. Again, I don't know if it's the name connotation with his older brother, which he certainly, he's not his brother. He's not Dalvin Cook, but there is, you see moments from him where could he be, a star running back in this league? Perhaps. Is he going to be I think maybe the projection is more a good, solid running back, maybe not, a star running back, but I don't know if the Bills need that with this offense. Again, I think it's about rounding it out and making sure that Josh Allen isn't the only one that can carry the load running the ball, because, everyone knows what happened last year, how the playoffs ended in that crazy game again with the Chiefs. And it was just a pure shootout at that point, right? It was about who's going to have the ball last, because these defenses are gassed. No one's stopping Mahomes or Allen. So what are you going to do? And when you don't have the running back that can really help burn the clock, that becomes more of an issue. Singletary's not a big guy. So all of a sudden now James Cook can come in and help fill that role, at least I think what the Bills are hoping, and just take some of the pressure off of Josh Allen a little bit. But again, this offense is very well-rounded. They have a lot of weapons, and I'd say Devin Singletary is probably the leader in this group right now, but I think James Cook will be given a lot of opportunity in this offense this season as well.
We've got Bradley Gilbert on here from the writer for USA Today, talking Bills on the AFC East. Let's switch the answer a little bit. Let's talk about the defensive side. Now, the Bills made some notable changes on the defensive end position, primarily with now Mario Addison, who, as well as Jerry Hughes, now gone, and comes in a 6-year newly granted contract with Von Miller. How different would the defensive end position be for the 2022 Buffalo Bills?
They're hoping very different. So, that there's a reason those guys are, and nothing but love to Jerry Hughes, honestly, like a consummate professional, did a lot for this franchise over the years, especially the years where they weren't very good. Jerry Hughes was the name that constantly came up as, the defensive, guy that was holding down the fort over the years. And what a trade that was for the Bills back with the Colts, and one of the biggest steals you could probably consider of all time on a trade like that. But obviously, he's getting older and his time had come. And I think, though, to answer your question, outside of just bringing in a guy like Von Miller, which, let's be honest, there was some criticism about that from outside of just the Bills franchise, about you're going to pay a guy like in his, the later stages of his career that much money. But if you really look at how the contract structured, the Bills can get out from underneath it after a few years. So they're really not giving him the way the contract maybe appeared in the headlines. But I think more than just what Von Miller will bring to that team from an experience standpoint, kind of like what we talked about earlier in the wide receiver position, they need him to get after the quarterback. And that's when Von Miller comes alive. If for no other reason than when they, undoubtedly go up against the Chiefs again in the playoffs, and it's Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen again, now you have Von Miller to step into that role in prime time in the playoffs. And he's a guy that has, notably gotten it done in the biggest moments of his career. I mean, that's why the Rams brought him in when they brought him in and they won a Super Bowl. But, outside of just Von Miller's impact on himself, there's guys like Greg Rousseau, for example, who's a young defensive end for the Bills, who, Von Miller's already talking about putting gasoline on the fire, feeding him gasoline. Like, this is a guy that the Bills are expecting big things out of Greg Rousseau, first-round draft pick, and all of a sudden you bring in a guy like Von Miller, who is just going to impart all his knowledge and wisdom, and you've already seen it in training camp in the preseason, and the Bills need that. They need someone to help kind of boost Greg Rousseau, who was already coming into kind of his own last year. So I think that's a scary combination. Anytime you can bring in a caliber player like Von Miller and also almost have an on-the-field coach like that. And then there's a guy like, for instance, Shaq Lawson, right, who used to play for the Bills. He was a first-round draft pick, went and tried his hand on a couple other AFC East teams with the Jets and the Dolphins, and finds himself signing, kind of minimum contract to come back to Buffalo, a guy who's familiar with, the defense for Sean McDermott there and Leslie Frazier, and provide some depth at the defensive end position. You have AJ Epinesa. You have some Boogie Basham. You have some of these guys who have been around now for several years and have been waiting to kind of earn their playing time with guys like Mario Addison and Jerry Hughes gone now. There's going to be opportunity, and the Bills are, very well known for rotating that defensive line between their defensive tackles, their defensive ends. So, having fresh legs, having guys to get after the quarterback, that's something that they need to do a better job of. And I think Von Miller was that tipping point for them to ensure that that's something they're going to do everything in their power to be able to do this season.
Speaking of Von Miller, he's been pretty not only busy getting acclimated to his new team, but he's been pretty busy on the social media stream trying to recruit one of his old players, Mr. Odell Beckham Jr. Any truth about him trying to possibly join with the Buffalo Bills?
That's been a fun
it has been
headline, and I mean they've played off it perfectly one another. Obviously, Odell's responded several times and played. You know what happened last time we did this and everything. So you, as a Bills fan, you're already on the edge of your seat. Like, this is the best team we've had since the '90s. We're Super Bowl favorites in a lot of polls here and projections, and you got Von Miller now, you got Josh Allen, and okay, well, maybe we'll just throw in Odell Beckham Jr. to the mix with an already stacked wide receiver group here. So, I mean, who knows? It could be one of those things where he joins the Bills at, towards, the end of the season here as like a playoff run. I don't know what his exact expectations are for the season if he wants to play for the full season. Obviously, last year, the way he kind of joined the Rams and how that worked out. So you never know, especially with injuries or what happens if they're not producing in the wide receiver position. But, it's certainly been, if Bills fans needed anything else to get them, excited about the upcoming season, that's just been one extra little wrinkle for them there.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like the rich getting richer in terms of a team, because I feel like the Bills are one of the more balanced teams in the NFL. It's definitely top three. Let's pivot towards the AFC East right now. We see Miami. They bring in Tyreek Hill. One of the tags that I've already given the Miami Dolphins is the Legion of Zoom. They've got Waddle and they've got Tyreek Hill. Do you see Tua taking a leap this year with all the new weapons, the 45 running backs that they have, the stellar wide receiver they have in Tyreek Hill now? Do you see him taking a leap this year?
I mean, he has to, right? If he doesn't, like, what are they going to? At this point, I mean, they're literally surrounding him with the talent, and that's looking back on Josh Allen's career. Early on, that was one of the knocks about him early in his career, was he just didn't have the talent around him, and people in Miami have been obviously lukewarm, maybe at best, about Tua so far in his career, and there was all the rumors about they're going to bring in another quarterback like Deshaun Watson for a while there, and it just seemed like the leadership that was in place in Miami was not totally sold on Tua, and it was hard to blame them. But, obviously they have a new head coach there, and they have a guy that's, known to be an offensive guru. And as you already mentioned, some of the big names like Tyreek Hill. I mean, if nothing else, Tyreek Hill has talked up Tua more than I've ever seen, someone talk up to this point, mediocre quarterback. So, I mean, if you bring in Tyreek Hill and it's almost like he's adding pressure to the situation because he's saying things like, I've never seen a more accurate quarterback after he played his entire career with, one of the best quarterbacks that we've known. So, I would expect him to take a leap forward just when you add talent like that to your offense. But I just don't know if Tua is going to translate into the quarterback that people want him to be. I just think that, and I'm not a guy that is solely based on physical attributes. I mean, we all know, look at a guy like Tom Brady, right? I don't even need to bring it up, but look at a quarterback like that. When you have accuracy, it's not always about having the strongest arm. Obviously, we've seen, super gifted physical athletes who just haven't translated, but is he going to be able to, sometimes his throws just don't have that NFL strength I think you need on them to beat defensive backs and things of that nature. That's something Josh Allen was able to get away with early in his career when he wasn't as accurate because he just had the arm to do it, the physical ability. So it's going to be really interesting. They've certainly set him up at this point to succeed. I know Bills fans and Bills writers are not very high on Tua, and they've made that known for a while, especially with how beloved Ryan Fitzpatrick still is to this day in Buffalo. So anytime Ryan Fitzpatrick had to come in and kind of save the day for the Dolphins when he was there, they made that known. So it'll certainly be interesting to see. And I know Tyreek Hill is going to have plenty of trash talk this year, but it should at least make the games a little more interesting to this point when the Bills and the Dolphins square off.
Yeah, the AFC East is going to be an interesting division to kind of watch week in, week out. You still got questions about who will be handling the play calling in New England. There's a lackluster one now that Josh McDaniels is now in Las Vegas. It seems like a trifecta effort between Matt Patricia and Joe Judge and Bill Belichick. You got a special teamer and two defensive coordinators trying to run the offense. But we all know that's how Bill Belichick does. But before we let you go, where can they find you on social media, Bradley?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. Obviously, that's kind of the thing for us sports.
Yep.
So Bradley Gelber, CradleyGelber is main place to find me if you want to follow along with some Bills coverage this season. Obviously, it should be a fun one. So thank you for having me. Though it was fun to talk some Bills football with you today.
Thanks for joining the show, man. I really appreciate it. We'll have you more or less during the season because there's going to be a lot of Bills talk through the entire season, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too, buddy. Thanks. That's Bradley Gilbert from USA Today talking AFC East and the division. That's it, man. We're done, dude. We got in, man. Thank you so much for all you guys listening out there. Be sure to check us out on Mid-State Checkdown this upcoming Friday. See you next week.